In this economy, older workers may have less margin for error than ever before. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I mean one setback at work can hurt more than it used to. One misunderstanding with a manager, one weak performance review, one restructuring at the company. Any one of those things could push you back into the job market. And if you're over 50, well, that matters because this is not a strong job growth economy. In fact, it's a slow growth economy. Employers, yeah, they're hiring, but they're hiring carefully. They're taking their time. And when companies move into that mode, well, they get pickier, much pickier. And if you're over 50, that matters. And it matters because when employers get more selective, older workers often feel that pressure first. Welcome back to Over 50 TV, where we help you earn more so you can retire smarter. Now, if we've never met, my name is Lou Reyes. I'm the publisher of Over 50 TV and the Side Hustle Rules YouTube channels. I'm also a career coach. I specialize in helping people over 50 launch startups and side hustles. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about why older workers may have less margin for error than ever before. Now, I'm also going to share with you 4 steps you can take to protect yourself. Let's start with the economy. Right now, job growth, well, it's weak. Economists, they're expecting a soft March jobs report with unemployment expected to come in at around 4.5%. In the labor market, well, it's being described as a low hire, low fire market in plain English. That just means companies, they're not firing everybody, but they're also not hiring aggressively either. So if you lose your job or if you feel pushed out, you may be walking into a market that's a lot thinner than it looks on the surface. And that is why I say the margin for error is smaller. In a stronger economy, a worker might lose a job and say, yeah, you know what, I'll find something else in a month or two. But in this kind of economy, that same worker may find there are fewer opportunities, slower hiring decisions, and more competition for every decent opportunity. Now, here's where this gets tricky. Yes, overall, older workers often have lower unemployment rates than younger workers, but that does not mean they're protected in a weakening job market. It does not mean companies won't cut you in a layoff. It does not mean a manager won't try to replace you with someone younger, and it definitely does not mean that if you lose your job, getting a new job will be easy. And that's the issue. Older workers may be employed at higher rates overall, but once they're out, many feel age becomes a real barrier. AARP, they found that 74% of older job seekers believe their age will count against them with hiring managers. So yes, you may be working today, but in a weakening economy, you still need to think defensively and strategically. So how do you overcome this? Well, I'm going to give you 4 practical ways to think about it. First, you need to understand that in a slow growth market, there is no room for complacency. If your resume is old, fix it. If your LinkedIn profile is weak, well, improve it. If your skills are stale, well, refresh them. And let me add something important here. This is not the time to ignore AI just because it feels new or unsettling. You don't have to love it. But if you want to stay competitive, you do need to learn how to use it. And while you're working to stay competitive, if your company is showing warning signs, pay attention. This is not the time to assume everything will work itself out. You know, one of the biggest mistakes older workers make is believing that years of experience alone will carry them. Experience matters. Yes, it absolutely matters. But experience has to be framed correctly, updated correctly, and marketed correctly. Second, networking matters more than ever. In a softer market, blasting out online applications is not enough. You know, when hiring slows down, employers, well, they slow down. They become more cautious, and referrals start to matter even more. Conversations matter more. Relationships matter more. And this is where older workers actually have an advantage if they use it. You've been around. You know people. You've worked with vendors, with customers, with managers, with owners, with partners, with colleagues. Your network is not just a list of names, it's an asset. But too many people wait until after they lose a job to reconnect with their network. And that's backwards. You want to be building and maintaining those relationships now while you still have momentum and confidence. Third, sector choice matters. This is not an economy where every industry is booming. Some sectors are holding up better than others, but job openings overall, yes, they've cooled sharply. The job market, it's more selective, it's more uneven, and that means that older workers have to be more strategic about where they aim their search. If you're trying to break into a weak sector, more often, you're going to feel like nothing is moving. But if you pivot toward areas where demand is more durable, your odds should improve. Now, that doesn't always mean healthcare, although, yes, healthcare and related services have clearly been a growth area. But it does mean you need to pay attention to where hiring is actually happening, not where you wish it were happening. And fourth, I often talk on this channel about having multiple income streams. This is especially important in a thin labor market like we have right now, because having only one income source can be dangerous. If all of your financial hopes depend on one employer, one paycheck, one boss, or one industry, you are vulnerable. And that's why side hustles matter. That's why freelancing matters. That's why building even a second stream of income matters. Not because everyone needs to become a full-time entrepreneur tomorrow, but because additional income gives you breathing room, it gives you leverage, it gives you time. And in a market where employers can afford to be pickier, time matters. Now, if starting a side gig has crossed your mind, well, then you're going to want my free side hustle starter kit. In my kit, I go over the first 8 steps that virtually every entrepreneur should take to get their business off the ground. And you can get my free side hustle starter kit just by clicking the link in this video's description. Now, let me say something else clearly. This is not a panic message. I'm not telling you the sky's falling. I'm not telling you there are no jobs. And I'm not telling you older workers can't win in this market. What I'm telling you is this. If you're over 50, you need to be more intentional than ever. You need to protect your current position. You need to keep your skills sharp. You need to make sure people know the value you bring. You need to stay connected to your network. And you need to think seriously about ways to create more control over your income. Because the margin for error really does look smaller right now. There are fewer easy second chances. There are fewer obvious openings. And if age bias enters the picture, the consequences of one setback can be bigger than they should be. Let me know in the comments if you feel the margin for error is smaller now than it used to be. I'd really like to hear your experience. And if you want to learn about some great second career options, well, then go ahead and check out my video, 7 High-Demand Jobs for People Over 50 in 2026. Easy second careers. I've also got a link to this video in the description box. If you want help thinking through your next move, whether that means protecting your job, repositioning yourself for a better role, or building a side income stream, well, you can go ahead and book a one-on-one coaching session with me. There's a link in the description. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Over 50 TV, where we help you earn more so you can retire smarter. You can also subscribe to Side Hustle Rules, where I'll show you how to start smart and scale your business fast. I'm Lou Reyes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.